Hello yet again, guys. Welcome to the Alex Gem Experience podcast. Today is all about positivity. Yes, this is going to be a really good one, I promise. And it's going to be very positive. Hey, no pun intended. So let's dive straight in. So, listen, a lot of people think, to be more positive, just think a positive thought. And, that definitely plays a role in the entire process. Don't get me wrong. But we're dealing with so many diverse variables, and some of them are really quite complicated because we're talking about our subconscious programs. We're talking about our mental, emotional addictions. We're talking about our lifestyles and our physical environments and our beliefs. And there are so many things involved. So whilst on the offset, you might be thinking, wow, this podcast, how to be more positive. I know what you're going to say, Alex, think more positive thoughts. Well, yes, but there is so much more at play here. And it's definitely worthwhile because the more positive we are, the less stressed we are. The more positive we are, the more energy we have. The more positive we are, the more action we take, the more we believe in our potential. We create better, more supportive beliefs. And we can literally change everything in our lives, our wealth. We can improve our health, live longer, and get into better physical shape, for instance. We can improve our relationships with familial members, with relatives, with peers, with colleagues, with a spouse, with a partner, and what have you, okay? So this being positive, it's not this lovey-dovey, fluffy thing that doesn't really matter. We're talking about massively improving the quality of your life in all these key significant areas. So being positive is incredibly insightful. It's one of the most important things we could possibly do. But it takes time. Because like I said, it takes between 66 to 365 days for a pattern to be deeply embedded in the unconscious. So we have to be patient, but we have to, we have to question our thoughts and so on and so forth. So the challenge that people face really is that they're trying to become more positive, but using the same kind of personality and conditioned consciousness as the past. Like, that makes no sense, guys. If we want to change something in our lives, such as to become more positive, we have to change. We have to take responsibility. We're going to need to change our personality traits. And therefore, we're going to need to change our attitudes and our beliefs. And we're going to need to therefore change the actions, the routines that we embed. And therefore, the emotions we experience. And therefore, the thoughts that we have, okay? So it's not as simple as just having a positive thought and, getting on with your day. No, not quite as simple as that. But every single person can become more positive, regardless of any issues or illnesses that we might face currently. Because as I'll outline later, our thoughts can make us sick and ill and negative for sure. But fortunately for us, the same thing that can make us sick and ill and negative, such as our thoughts, can also be the cure. We are the cause, we are the effect. So, what we have to understand is 95% of our behaviors, our perceptions, our beliefs are subconscious programs, meaning that most of the things we do throughout the day, it's not a choice. We've programmed ourselves to create these patterns, if you will, and we therefore execute them unknowingly. Have you ever started to do an activity and you thought, why am I doing this? Like, what's happening? Like maybe you're driving a certain way, or you tie your shoelaces a certain way, or you eat a certain way, or you speak a certain way. These are all programs, guys. And it can be changed, and it's certainly worthwhile looking to change them. All right? So whenever we want to consciously embark on new practices of positivity, there will be resistance. Now, let me tell you why this resistance happens. Okay? Resistance occurs due to inner conflict. Because consciously, you might be thinking things like, you might be thinking, I want to be more positive, I want to be happy, I want to be more peaceful. However, your subconscious programs, what's more deeply embedded within us, might have the opposite feelings and thoughts embedded within them. So consciously you're thinking, I want to change my life, I want to be happier, I want to be more positive, I want more energy, I want more abundance, these sort of things. But then your subconscious, what you've taught yourself for months or years or decades, might be saying the exact opposite. Meaning, I'm used to low energy, I'm used to not taking much action, I'm used to being sad or depressed or angry or bitter or jealous or impatient or whatever it might be. And then you start to excuse yourself. Oh, it's just the way I am. Yeah, well, you're not going to get more positive unless you change the way you are. So we meet all kinds of resistance, guys. Whenever you're looking to change something in your life, whether it be to acquire more wealth or improve your relationships or develop a new skill or do new things that you've never done before that you think that you deem to be like a challenge, maybe it's a problem or a fear that you've had. Whenever you look to do these sort of things, you will meet resistance from your own unconscious. Because your unconscious is designed to keep you safe and secure, to keep you alive, to keep you surviving. That's the main mechanisms with your unconscious and your primitive medulla, the ancient part of your brain that exists within us all. These are the triggers that switch on when we're living in stress, if you will, living in chronic stress. And you cannot change your life. You cannot make better decisions in your life if we're reacting to these more primitive, basic urges. All right, so yes, expect resistance, preempt and prepare for the issues that will occur whenever you try to meditate or exercise more to become more positive, or talk to more positive people, or invest in like a course or a workshop, or to have a mentor or something like this. Whenever you're going to do these things, you will meet resistance. It's part of the process. You just have to be aware of resistance and be able to be the watcher of your own thinking, to catch yourself and to think, oh, this is me trying to put myself off out of fear. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes to not be guided by that defensive, negative thinking that's trying to keep you as you are. So, yes, we are battling ourselves. Yes, we, in many ways, are battling our own brains. But it's worth it. 100% it is worth it. So yes, our brains will come up with lots of different excuses to stop us. So for example, if you're thinking to yourself, I want to be more positive, I want to be more active, I want to exercise more. Then when it comes to actually getting ready, like physically dressed to go train or go for a run or get exercise, you might meet resistance and it can reveal itself, just like a devil. It can reveal itself in many different forms, in many different guises. And we have to be aware of this. Because the interesting thing about the unconscious is that it will throw a thought your way, such as the example I just gave you about exercise. Such as, listen, you've got quite a busy day today, actually. Maybe you'll get a bit tired. You don't have time to go and train like this. Go train tomorrow instead. That's your unconscious coming up with a thought to keep you within the familiar, to keep you within your current routines, because it's afraid of change, the unknown. So then you might override that and go, hey, actually, I know I'm quite busy, but I can do it. I have good time. I want to build momentum. Exercise is really important to me. And then your mind will come up with another thought later. Maybe thereafter, I don't know, your brain might come up with the fact that, oh, you haven't eaten yet? How are you going to be able to exercise in a fasted state? You've not done that before. Why don't you just have a nice big breakfast and maybe later you want to exercise? That's your unconscious trying to come up with excuses. And it's trying to kind of work with your ego, like negotiate with your own ego. And your ego is influenced. Whenever time is concerned, your ego is being influenced. If you're thinking about the past or you're concerned about your future, you're worried about your future, you're coming up with excuses about thinking about what's going to happen later on and these sort of things, then you're overly identifying with the mind, with your own personality and your conditioned consciousness. And it's down to you to really put things into perspective, to be objective, to be the watcher of your thoughts, as I outlined earlier, and to become more present and just focus on the present moment. What do you need to do now? In this instance, becoming healthier and happier and more positive by exercising. Or you can supplant that, if you don't want to use exercising as the example, meditation or journaling or self-reflecting or reading about how to be more positive or investing in a course about how to be more positive, more enlightened, to change your mindset, have a growth mindset, or whatever it might be. So just be ready for your own resistance and understand that it sounds exactly the same as your positive thoughts. If you have a thought and you deem it to be negative, then it is not you. And this is where people kind of get things wrong. They think that every single thought that they have is them. And that's not true. Because we have what's called collective consciousness. And that's how, as a community, as a society, the same kind of energy, the kind of brain frequencies and the electromagnetic fields that we experience and that we give out, the energy that we give out to the world, there becomes like a common ground, if you will, a common fear, if you will, a common negativity, a common way of thinking, generally speaking. Everyone's different, of course, because of our personalities, but there is such a thing as this collective consciousness, and this will pervade your own thoughts. There are energies around us that many of which we are oblivious to. And yes, we must take responsibility for our own energy, but we must also understand that we are not our thoughts. If you have a negative thought, it's not you. It's stress, which we can eradicate. It's excuse making. It's acting out of fear. It's your past conditioning, and you are not your past, because you should be changing all the time. You should be in the present moment, embarking on new activities, experiencing new things, developing new skills. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. I'm certainly not the same person I was 5, 10, 15 years ago. I don't know about you. If you think you're kind of the same person as you were 20 years ago, then this is not a good sign. It means you're being dominated by your own egoic thinking. You're being dominated by compulsive thinking. And you're a prisoner to your own unconscious, if that's the case. And it can be changed. And I'll show you how to do that in this podcast. But we must firstly understand what's happening here. We have to identify. The first route to any kind of change, guys, is to identify the problem. We cannot change if we are oblivious to any kind of patterns or issues or thoughts that we might be having that we want to change. If you want to change your thoughts, you need to identify your thoughts. And you can do that in a multitude of different ways. You can literally wake up and write down your thoughts, or before you go to bed, write down how your day went and how you felt and these sort of things. Or you can literally you use apps on your phone to record your thoughts and to reflect on them later on in the day and think. Or you can write down common thoughts. You can have a diary and write down the common thoughts that you have every single day, so you can start to work out, oh my God, that's the same thought as yesterday. Oh my God, and that's the same actions that I did yesterday. And you can really start to become aware of your own processes. That's what will enable change. Because for most people, 90% of our thoughts, and we think between 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, the average person, most of these thoughts, 90% of these thoughts, are the same as the previous day. Now, you're going to ask me why. It's because we're doing the same sort of things every single day. We're waking up in the same bed. We're drinking coffee or tea from the same mug, the coffee and tea that's made the same sort of way. We're doing the same kind of morning activities. We interact with the same kind of people. We drive to the same kind of places. We buy things from the same kind of shops and stores. Like we go to bed in the same kind of way. We watch the same kind of TV shows, watch the same kind of movies. Do you understand what I'm saying here? If we're doing the same sort of things every single day, it reminds me of the movie Groundhog Day. If you're doing the same kind of things every single day, nothing is going to change. You're not going to become more positive. And I'll talk about this a bit later. So what we're looking at, the main purpose of this podcast is to understand that yes, anyone can kind of force themselves to think of a negative thought. To think of a positive thought and to write it down perhaps. I mean, that's an easy thing. But these are the kind of like basic principles. They have their place, but it's not going to instill long-term change. So like I said, identify the issues, identify the thoughts you dislike, identify the thoughts you want to start thinking. That's definitely part of the process. And start getting used to catching yourself when you're being negative. And start to question, why are you being negative? What are you doing? What actions, what physical things are you doing when you think these negative thoughts? Are you by your desk or office at work? Are you talking to your line manager? Are you on the phone to your spouse and then you start to be more negative and so on and so forth? Are you laying in bed, tossing and turning and you're being negative? Where is it happening? Are you at the gym and you're being negative? Do you know what I mean? Start to identify where you are and what activities you are doing when you experience these when you start to ruminate and ponder on negative things and you start thinking about negative scenarios and the positivity is kind of like beaten out of you by yourself. Or if you're like a sheep, a follower, and you're being reactive to the world around you and your routines are easily knocked out of homeostasis, knocked out of balance because of stress, that means you don't have control. And we're also talking about discipline and doing the right sort of thing on a regular basis. And this is the art of change here. It is an art. It is a skill to be able to change. But it's a skill that we can all acquire. It's an aptitude worth fighting for. So, I mean, there is a feedback loop between our thoughts and our emotions. I want you to understand what happens. When you have a thought, guys, what happens is tons of neurons within your brain, they organize themselves into networks. They connect to each other synaptically. Neurotransmitters, which are signals carrying information, transfer from one neuron to another and these sorts of things. And they organize themselves into networks. And when this happens and they organize themselves into networks, it produces a chemical. So every single thought that you have produces a chemical. By a chemical, I mean it's a thought, it's an emotion that we have. So when you have a thought, it can be a positive thought, a negative thought, an indifferent thought, whatever it might be, it will produce a similar kind of chemical and emotion within us. And these the feedback loop, like your thoughts influencing your feelings influencing your thoughts and back and forth, that happens all day long. Every single person, it happens all day long. So if you want to feel more positively, and what happens is you think and feel in certain ways over and over again until the emotion is strong enough to instigate a certain action. Now, that action can be inaction. That action can be to go for a run. That action can be to eat healthily. That action can be to meditate. That action can be to start an argument or to create drama and conflict and self-sabotage. That action can be to partake in an addictive behavior that you're unhappy with, like drinking alcohol, getting involved in illicit drugs or overeating or whatever it might be, okay? So we have to spot the triggers. And let's talk about stress. I know I started this from the offset, this podcast was saying it's going to be positive. It is positive. We're getting there, but we have to identify stress because this is one of the main reasons why people are unable to change their lives to become more positive. And it's because most people spend 70% of their lives living in survival mode, living in chronic stress. And when we live in stress, we live in fear. And we live in fear because we're identifying with our egoic mind. We're constantly reminding ourselves of who we are, our labels. I'm shy, I'm confident, I'm sociable, I'm an introvert, I'm quiet, I'm incomplete, I'm useless, I'm worthless, or I'm amazing, or I'm abundant, or I'm the best person in the world, and all these, we have certain labels. And when not only do we have certain labels, we use physical things, possessions, to kind of remind ourselves of them. For example, you might have this really arrogant perspective that, I'm the best in the world at this. And then you might think, well, what makes me think I'm the best in the world? Well, I have all this money, or I have all these people who adore me, who says I'm amazing. And we use these possessions, these things, these people, these objects, materialistically, to kind of support the thought that we have, the belief that we have. And this happens in every single way of our lives. And what I'm saying is we do not have to identify with who we are. That's a very limited way of living. Because when we identify, when we're absorbed and immersed in with the mind, when we're absorbed and immersed with our own identity and who we are and why we're superior, why we're exclusive, why we're different to people, why we're unique and significant, we actually become more incomplete, ironically. And we end up doing things from a source of lack. Have you ever known someone who wants to make more and more money, but they're never happy no matter how much money they have? I'm sure you do. Have you ever heard or met someone before who seems to be having everything going well in their lives? You're like, oh my God, if you wrote their lives on paper, it's the perfect life. They've got the perfect family. They're famous. They've got the, amazing things going for them, yet they're depressed. Yet they might take their own lives. Because they're acting from the ego only. And it's a very limited, painful place to live in. Now, I'm not saying that our conditioned consciousness, our personalities, our identity is evil. It has its place and it's useful at times. And it's a beautiful thing. But the danger is when we start to overly identify with this egoic mind, what happens is we start to make more and more mistakes. And we start to act. And we attract negativity. And that's the whole point of this podcast. What I'm saying to you is one of the major ways we are negative is because of our primitive brain trying to keep us alive, because we're always staying in our comfort zone and not trying new things and learning from experiences. And also because we're always reminding ourselves of who we are and why we're not good enough. And we're constantly chasing something that we'll never achieve if we're acting from the ego. Where the ego is, negativity is not far away. Now, you can identify with your ego, but if you stay there too long, insidiously, our negativity, our need for exclusivity will take over. And we'll be stuck in sadness. And we won't create the kind of abundance and happiness and positivity that we want. We want to be optimistic about the future. But we need to bring the future to us now. And I'll talk about that a bit later as well. We need to bring the future to us now. That is vital. And the problem is, if we're going to be positive, then we need our cortex, our logical brain, if you will, where we do our executive functioning, our sequencing, where we start to plan things for ourselves, where we start to analyze and evaluate and do our best thinking, our part of the brain we want to be functioning when we're doing high order skills and we're communicating and we're developing skills and these sort of things and making key decisions in our lives. We want the cortex to run the show in these instances. But it cannot run the show if we're in that stress response. Because then we're acting out of fear. It's almost like the cortex switches off. And we have the limbic brain, the emotional brain, consisting of things like the hypothalamus, the hippocampus, the amygdala, which is switched on during emergency instances, where our memory lies as well, and all these sorts of things. We rely on these kind of parts in the brain to step up. And also we rely on the medulla, the ancient primitive brain. It's the equivalent of a reptilian. It's called the reptilian brain because it's the equivalent to a lizard's brain, okay? Its primary function is survival and having and reproduction. That's all it cares about. So it's very limited, very basic. And what I'm saying to you is when we're stressed out and we become emotional, we switch off the cortex. We switch off logical thinking. We make worse decisions out of fear. And not only that, we process information poorly as well. Say, for example, if you get carrying on with your day, right? And you've been quite negative. Say you've been knocked out of homeostasis. You're all over the place. Your neurotransmitters are firing excessively. You're not sleeping well because of this. Like you're being irrational. You're being impatient. You're frustrated and all these sorts of things. And say if your colleague or your manager comes up to you and says, listen, I need your help. I need you to do this bit of work. And we've got a quick turnaround. The deadline is in 2 days. I know it's a lot of work to do, but we would like you to do it. Now, if you're acting out of stress during this response, you're going to process that information from your line manager negatively. You might think things like, why me? They hate me. They want me to struggle and suffer. They're trying to make me, this is evil. This is wrong. What's wrong with me? I'm not going to be able to do this work. I'm not good enough. They know I'm not good enough. They're setting me up for failure. All these kind of negative thoughts will ensue because you're acting out of stress, because you've switched off your cortex, because you're living in chronic stress. Instead, if your cortex was in control, and I'll tell you in a moment about how to make that happen. If your cortex was involved and your line manager came to you to give you work for the deadline in 2 days, you might think, wow, they've come to me because they know how competent I am. They've come to me because they need help and they know I can help them. They've come to me because they need support and they need someone to step up and they want a leader to lead the way. That's why they've come to me, because they believe in me. And you know what? I can do it. I know it's a lot of work, but we're going to do it step by step. And that's because your cortex has taken control. And it's very simple, but we can reduce and take away the stress response by breathing. If you practice inhaling slowly, holding your breath for several seconds, and then exhaling very slowly as well, as though you're blowing through a straw, for example, and you breathe at least 10 times like that, you're going to calm down your circuits. You're going to go from high beta brainwave frequency, which is thinking over 60 thoughts per minute, which is too excessive, too much stress, overwhelm. Your body's freaking out physiologically as well. And when you start to breathe properly, what I've noticed in the past is that when I get really stressed out and I'm living in chronic stress, I find it hard to take really deep breaths. I find it hard to breathe through not just through my lungs, but inhale through my abdomen, for example. It's almost like there's limited space, but it's only because I'm tense. But when you learn to relax and with each breath, you take in more and more oxygen. Your body begins to become calmer. You become more present. Your body your organs, your entire body starts to just become more flexible, more loose. The tension fades away with each deep breath. And it also enables blood to flow to your left prefrontal cortex so that you can start to think more logically again, so you can take back more control and you can be more positive. And it sounds very simple, but sometimes, guys, the simplest things make the biggest difference. And when we're acting out of stress, we will try and force an outcome. When we live by the hormones of stress, we lose that balance. And you know what's really detrimental is that our own thoughts can trigger the stress response alone, guys. That means you don't even need a physical experience to be happening around you. It just happens through a thought. You can trigger because this is subconscious programs, we can trigger these just by thought alone. You can trigger this awful pattern, this awful addiction, mental addiction, just by your own thoughts. But we can change that over time. But like I said, our egos play a massive role in this as well. We can't be making the same choices as the previous days. And in many ways, we have to step outside of our comfort zone. We have to do what feels unnatural. We have to become uncomfortable appropriately. I'm not saying do crazy things, because that would not enable you to experience flow. You want an appropriate amount of challenge. If we're looking to embed a new routine, like maybe if we've never meditated before and we want to get into that routine, start with 5 or 10 minutes of deep breathing and visualization, or however you choose to meditate. Start to do it for short periods of time. Small steps, guys, small wins. And we can take every single day, we can build upon these successes. They build up until they become a subconscious program in their own right. And then it becomes easier for you to meditate or exercise or self-reflect or read or learn new skills or go to new places or challenge yourself and do things that you used to be afraid of doing. And you can start to overcome these barriers over time. This is key. And we need presence. And in order to create the kind of future we want, if you are going to envision a future, then make it positive. When we think about things going wrong, or us making mistakes, or us losing our jobs, or an investment going down here, or our partner leaving us, or people passing away, or whatever it might be, when we start to think about negative things, we change our state. And we become disempowered. And we lack control. We become hopeless. And you can't think positively if you're thinking this way. And you're being caught up in your ego. And instead, what I advise is that if you are going to visualize your future, envision your future, then do so positively. Lie down or during your meditation or before going to sleep, part of your sleeping routine. Imagine yourself creating the kind of positivity, success, and momentum in your life. Whatever success or positivity means to you, start to envision it, because your unconscious does not know the difference between what is real, what's actually happening or happened in the past, and something that's just been visually constructed by yourself. So what I'm saying, get into the habit of imagining yourself succeeding, being happy, more blissful, more positive, being ecstatic, and it will happen. But we have to make it happen. And it's not just this kind of like, the principles of The Secret, I believe, are beautiful. It's positive, but I don't think it's enough. Just simply envisioning the future that you want and imagining yourself like winning the lottery or becoming happier or having a mansion or whatever it is that is happiness to you. Visualization is key, but we need to take insane amounts of action to make it happen. We need to get used to taking action, being productive, being focused, looking after ourselves, giving us the right kind of nutrition, eating healthily, getting the polyphenols, the flavonoids from colourful fruit and vegetables, getting the right kind of healthy fats to help our brain function, to improve, to look after our immunity, staying hydrated, drinking a lot of water, having the right kind of fluids, sleeping well, at least 7 hours, 7 to 9 hours every single day. It's key for repair, for creating that clarity. You will not be positive if you're sleeping less than 6 hours every single day. It's not going to happen. Because your brain and your body are not recovering from the brain damage, the minute brain damage sustained from the day before. Just being awake gives you very minuscule brain damage. You need to repair, clean the plaque and the toxins out of your brain, the metals out of your brain by sleep. That's what it does. You need to boost your immunity and get rid of cancerous cells by sleeping well. We need to let the mind and body relax, to let the creativity flow by sleeping well, by accessing deep sleep swindles and heavy REM sleep. That's where our creativity comes through. When we sleep well, we have more energy, we're more productive, we get things done, we build momentum in our lives, we become more positive, we start to have better self-talk. We're like, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that, I'm more capable, I didn't think I could do that today and I did it, wow. You start to change your own beliefs over time. And that's what a belief is. A belief is just a thought that's been repeated but also reinforced over time. And the beliefs occur to our experiences of the past, but we need to move beyond that. And if we're envisioning a better future, then we can change our beliefs by bringing our brilliant future to us now, being in the present moment now. Calm your senses, deep breathing. just appreciating the simplest things in our lives. Fully experience the present moment. Bring the mind and the body to where you are now. Yeah? For instance, there are people who are very negative, yet they're at a party. And vice versa, you could be completely alone in solitude, yet be so full, blissful, experiencing gamma brainwave frequencies, being highly alert, so positive, so appreciative, so abundant, so loving. It's all down to what we create within us, and we are in control of what we create. And that's what it means to be a leader, to take responsibility, to know that we make choices. We are in charge of our choices. No matter what happens in the external world, we need to be responsible for how we perceive these and what we do about it. And that's how we become more positive, guys. And we need to produce coherence and congruency within us. We need the brain and the heart to work together. When it's out of rhythm, it's often a sign that we are being consumed by stress and fear, like I outlined before. And this is key. So we need to take control. We need to rise above just our conditioned consciousness, the ego, our personality. And we need to access a more deep and more loving state where our self-esteem lies, where we love ourselves and appreciate ourselves and everyone else, every other living human being for that matter, because we're all very similar. We all eat, we all sleep, we all go to the toilet, we all are born, we all die. We all experience certain kind of emotions throughout our lives. We are all, regardless of our backgrounds, our identity, our class in terms of our financial class that we find ourselves in at the moment, no matter what gender we are, no matter what preferences we have, no matter our age, we are all similar. And that's what creates what is known as unconditioned consciousness. Constant state of bliss and love and joy and peace. And positivity thrives with clarity. Positivity thrives with stillness and peace. And as I outlined earlier, exercise, sauna, the heat shock proteins that arise from these, the benefits, how it lowers cholesterol, reduces cardiovascular disease and all these kinds of health-related problems. Exercise, especially HIIT training, high-intensity interval training, eating healthily, often, staying hydrated, sleeping well, meditation, self-reflecting, reminding ourselves of our priorities every single day so we stay focused no matter what happens throughout the day. Surrounding ourselves with positive people and positive circumstances where possible. Listening to our role models, whether that be through reading books or through YouTube or through courses or through attending live events and workshops. What you put in is what we feel, guys. So put good stuff in your brain. And if it's not just you, make it from other people. So we want to stimulate and activate neuroplasticity and therefore neurogenesis. Okay, let me outline what this means. So this is the key to being more positive. If we are not as positive as we'd like to be at the moment, then we definitely want to work on stimulating neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is stimulating. And what do I mean by that? First, let me say the benefits, why you want to do this. Neuroplasticity is all about enabling your own brain to restructure, rewire itself, to get rid of old, archaic, disempowering, limiting beliefs and thoughts that we have, and replacing them with more uplifting, empowering thoughts and emotions. And I'm telling you that you can do that through neuroplasticity. So now that you know why we want to do that, because it will make us more positive and change our brains over time and become new people over time, a better version of ourselves, if you will, you can do that by, a multitude of ways, but firstly, by experiencing new things. That means don't always watch the same kind of movies. Don't always go to the holidays to the same places. Don't always exercise in the same sort of ways. Don't always eat the exact same meals. Don't always, go for walks to the same kind of places. Sameness breeds same thinking. And we're in control of this. And that's why we want to stimulate neuroplasticity. So experience new things, variety, travel to new places, go to trips to different destinations, embark on new courses, get a mentor or get a personal trainer, or get into a relationship with someone new who brings different opinions and ideas, or start a new business, or develop a high income skill, such as marketing or advertising or negotiation or presentations or whatever it might be. Experience new things. Go to new places. If you've never gone to festivals or concerts before, go to them. If you've never attended sporting events in certain competitions or sports, go to them. Open your mind and create the chance to change and become more positive. Not only that, you might want to stimulate neuroplasticity by developing new skills like I outlined. And at this moment in time, it's kind of irrelevant what the skills are. It can be learning how to play golf or how to play tennis, or learning how to hypnotize someone, or learning the mechanisms involved when doing a resistance training, lifting weights, for example, or exercising. Or it might be learning how to cook certain recipes and certain kinds of foods. Or it could be learning all the cities in all the countries around the world, developing your geography, or developing your understanding of history. I don't know. Get creative. Learn things that you're interested in. Because when you learn new information, when you develop skills, like get into a martial arts. If you've never swam before, if you don't know how to swim, learn. Invest money and time into professionally learning how to swim. Well, not to become a professional swimmer unless that's what you want to do. But learn how to swim. You'll develop these skills, and then you'll start to learn and think, oh my God, I used to be afraid of swimming. I used to think I could never swim, and now I'm starting to paddle. Now I'm swimming through these classes or whatever it might be. And that changes your beliefs. You go, oh my God, how about other things in my life? I didn't think I could swim. Now I'm swimming. And what else did I think I was incapable of doing? Oh, I was always negative of myself, thinking that, I wasn't smart. I didn't know much about this topic or that topic. Maybe I should start learning about it, and maybe I can get better at it. Then you start to question your own limited thinking. This is the art of neuroplasticity, guys, and it's 100% worth your time and effort to do these things. Amazing. So I think I made that bit quite clear. And this is how we're going to enable change, team. You're going to enable change through your surroundings, through changing your physical environments, doing new things. Because when you learn new things, new material, new information through reading or watching YouTube videos or listening to me, or interacting with new people in your organization or in your company or in your job. When you learn new things in any aspect, it creates new neurons within your hippocampus, within your limbic brain. And we actually produce 700 new neurons every single day. You can actually double these connections. You can take the amount of connections from being 1,300 connections to being 2,600 connections. You can double them by not just learning new material, but you have to revisit the things that you learn. If you're learning to play a new instrument or become qualified and certified in a certain area in your life, you need to revisit this information, because if we learn something new, we can forget this newly learned information within just 48 hours. We can forget up to 80% of what we just learned the previous day by not revisiting it. So learn new things, revise it. Learn new things, revise it. This is how we change our brains, increase the amount of neurons in our brain, become more intelligent, more insightful, and therefore have more options in our lives. I'll give you the analogy of finances. Some of the best experts, financial experts in the world, they say diversify. Why do they say diversify? Because if you put all your eggs in one basket and that basket goes downhill, which is likely to do throughout the course of your life in any areas, and in particular in this instance, wealth, then you'll struggle financially because there'll be ups and downs. But for example, if you're in the rental business and you're renting your properties while simultaneously investing in stocks or shares, while simultaneously investing in gold or investing in corporate bonds or government bonds and these sorts of things, now you've covered yourself in so many different areas, so there'll always be wealth coming through. And the same applies to our lives. The more intelligent we become, the more options we have. We're able to choose the option that supports us best because we're able to think and perceive in many layers. We have more opportunities. And we're in more control. We're more likely to be calm people. And therefore, we're more likely to make better, more positive decisions for ourselves because we're coming from a greater source of intelligence. And this is the key to change. This is the key to greater positivity. So if you like this podcast, team, you want to know more about these sort of things, you might want to get my book, The Art of Power, Happiness and Success. You can get that at Amazon. You can also get it at my store at www.alexgemstore.com. You might want to join me live, work with me live at an event, the Power Mastermind, absolutely incredible. The most meticulous worksheets and activities and working with like-minded, hardworking people so you can create your own team where you become accountable, where you start to bounce ideas off each other and build momentum in your lives and work with me. I'd love to meet you in person and to work with you and to create a team of people who want to be more positive, people who want to be happier, people who want to be more tranquil in their lives. We can do it together. Now, if you can't attend for whatever reason, then I've actually turned it into a course, which it's called the Power Mastermind virtual version. So you can actually get all these incredible activities and worksheets that's taken me hundreds of hours to put together, as well as tens of thousands of pounds to learn these activities, to make it specific to you over time, the best of the best, to help enable change. And you get these worksheets, you get these activities, you see me present in a live audience at the Power Mastermind, so you can feel part of the team, you understand my thinking, the processes, the learning, the questions that people had to ask and these sorts of things at the live events. And you can actually see me complete the activities myself so you can understand my journey, but more importantly, so you can understand how to complete these activities and make the most of them. Incredible value, incredible bonuses added in there, 30-day money-back guarantee. Go check it out for yourself. You're going to absolutely love it. And lastly, you might want to join me with my course. All you need to do is go to my website, go to www.alexgem.com, click where it says join PHS course today, enter your credit card, you get instant access to this brilliant revolutionary course, helping you to change your mindset, develop a more open, growth-oriented mindset, where you become more flexible in your thinking, you can understand how to take control in your life, where you live in the present moment much more, where you can change your subconscious programs, your habits over time, where you can become more disciplined, and this will improve your finances, your health, your wealth. This will improve your relationships. You'll be able to build rapport with yourself and others. You'll become a leader in and out in an organization, but also for your children, for your family, for your spouse, for your siblings, for your parents. You'll be able to help them and show them the way, show them the light. It's absolutely incredible. And again, 30-day money-back guarantee, incredible bonuses, ebooks given to you worth $50 each, given for free for investing in this course as well. Hours and hours of exclusive video footage, podcast material, and audio segments, as well as bonuses. Guys, this is life-changing stuff. Go join the team, help yourself, and take the quality of your life to the next level. Stay strong, and I'll see you soon.